Hello, viewers, and welcome to a very special Warhammer production. My name is Mitch, and I am the Hive Tyrant. Today, I'm joined alongside a special guest, and I wanted to make this video kind of introducing and providing an overview of Warhammer 40,000 Conquest. It happens to be a living card game produced by Fantasy Flight Games. It's a two-player adversarial deck-building card game. I think it's absolutely fantastic. And Sam, why don't you introduce yourself?
Well, thanks for having me on, Mitch. My name is Sam Mann, and I go by Sam Man 11 on the Fantasy Flight and more so the card game DB.com forums. I run the Octagon competitive league, which is like an online league using the software that you guys are seeing here to play this game. And I agree with what you said. It's a great game. It's steeped in the Warhammer 40k universe and one of the best IPs out there, and it's one of the best card games out there.
Definitely. So, this game has a fantastic fictional setting, and as I'm sure is going to become abundantly clear throughout the course of this video, if you like Magic the Gathering, if you like any kind of competitive or adversarial card game, this is just absolutely fantastic. So Sam happened to mention that we're playing this through a digital playing surface called Octagon. Normally this is played with conventional physical cards, and Sam and I are kind of going to walk you through a game so that you can learn how to play and get an overview as we're in the process of actually playing a game. So just in taking a look at the screen here, every player is going to pick one Warlord card. I've chosen Captain Cato Sicarius. He's a unique character from the Space Marines faction. At this point in the game's development, we have a grand total of 8 different factions. All the different 40k staples are represented with the exception of the soon-to-be upcoming Necrons. So we have the Space Marines, the Imperial Guard or Astra Militarum, we have the Tau, we have the Eldar, the Dark Eldar, the Orcs, and Chaos, and of course my personal favorite, we recently have the addition of the Tyranids. And Sam, why don't you tell us a little bit about the Warlord that you're playing in this video?
All right, well, I will be playing Zarather, High Sorcerer. He is a champion of Tzeentch, and I'll be using him to command the forces of Chaos.
Definitely. So it's that age-old rivalry between Space Marines and Chaos. Just in looking at the Warlord card here, every Warlord is going to have a unique ability. For example, Captain Cato Sicarius, whenever an enemy unit is destroyed at the planet he happens to be sitting at, you accrue a resource token. You can use those resource tokens on things like army units, like Land Raiders or Tactical Marines for the Space Marines faction, or for Chaos, you can put cultists into play, myriad different demon units, just all sorts of things. There are events which kind of have a one-off effect, and then there are attachments like las cannons or bolt guns, all sorts of different fantastic stuff like that. But at the moment, why don't we actually go ahead and hit setup, and we'll establish our gaming field. And there's going to be a lot of different things to see, and we'll just kind of walk you through it as things go. So to start the game, each player is going to draw their opening hand of cards, and at the very onset of the game, we determine something called initiative. So players alternate taking turns in this game. I'll play an action, Sam will play an action, starting with whoever has the initiative token. So we'll leave it up to random chance whether Sam or I are designated as the first player, the player with this initiative. The Aquila here indicates that. So it's going to be Sam's opportunity to play cards first, and if you look at your Warlord card, I've got Captain Cato Sicarius. In the center of the card, to the left, there's a black number 7. That means I start the game with 7 cards in hand, and similarly, the yellow or gold number 7 immediately to the right indicates that I also begin the game with 7 resources. And resources are going to be the tokens that are just kind of generic. You use those to fund all the different effects in your deck. And in the corner, the upper left-hand corner of each card, there's going to be a resource token requirement. For this Iron Halo, it costs 3. For this Drop Pod Assault, it costs 2. But I'm not tremendously thrilled with my opening hand, so I'm going to end up taking a mulligan. So each player has one opportunity to basically exchange their starting hand of cards for a new allotment here. In taking a look at our playing field, there are 7 different cards on the table that are called planets. You start with 5 in play, and each of them has a different ability, and it has different values associated with it. So out of all of these planets, the first, which happens to be Taurus, it's designated with this little green icon, that's called the first planet. So in this game, you want to be fighting battles, as anyone would expect in a 40k game, and you also want to be building a very strong economy. So in taking a look at this planet card, in the very bottom left, we see 1 for a card bonus, and in the bottom right, we see 1 for a resource bonus. So throughout the game, you're going to be deploying units to various planets, not just to fight grand, epic, incredible space battles, but you're also going to be wanting to generate additional cards, additional resources to fund additional effects. So lots of cards in this game have multiple uses. They can be used for combat and for economy. And if you happen to win a battle at a planet, you can trigger its battle ability. So for Taurus is, if I have fewer units than my opponent, I can gain 3 resource tokens or draw 3 cards. So units are things like your Warlord, your army units, and then for some factions, tokens, like Tyranids, for example. They're a very swarm-based faction, so they generate a lot of tokens. And then in the upper left of each planet, for Taurus here, you can see there's a red servo skull and a green kind of artillery unit. Those are called planet type icons, and the first player to win 3 of the same ends up winning the game. So if I were to win Taurus, I would get one of those green icons. If the next turn, when the first planet changes, I were to win Barlas, I'd have 2 green icons. And then 4 at Yavvarn, I'd be able to win an additional icon, and that would mean I've got 3 green icons and I would win. In addition to winning through planets, if at any point you or your opponent run out of cards in your deck, normally decks are 50 cards, you also lose the game, but that's very uncommon that either player loses like that. And then the only other way that you can lose is through having your Warlord essentially bloodied once. So your Warlord goes from their full hit point value down to 0. They become bloodied, which typically means they lose their ability. Like, let me go ahead and bloody Kato here. You can see that his stats are slightly reduced, and instead of having that resource token generating effect, he just reads that he is bloodied. So I'm going to go ahead and restore him, make sure that he's ready. He's not tapped or knelt. He's in his unexhausted state, and I suppose that means we're pretty much ready to start the game.
I am going to mulligan my hand as well here, Mitch. If you scroll over my opening hand here, I've got 7 units, and really only about, I've got 3 deploy opportunities here in the first turn with my 7 resources. I can afford to play, 3 different units, but I don't want 7 units in my hand, so I'm going to mulligan as well.
Sure, not a problem at all. So this is a very casual game since he and I are just doing an instruction and overview video here, but just in taking a look at any of these different units, like let's take a look at Sam's Zarathar's Flamers here. So in that upper left-hand corner, you can see that there's a cost of 2, so it would cost him 2 resources to play that. It's got a hammer in the kind of center of the card off to the left, and what that indicates is it's called a command icon. So during one of the phases in the game, you compare command icons at a planet, and whichever player has more command icons there, they end up getting that card or resource bonus that happens to be printed on the planet. So at Taurus, our first planet, if Sam had 4 command icons worth of units and I had only 3, during our economy phase, which is called the command phase, he would gain 1 card and 1 resource, and the same can be said for each of these 5 different planets. So we kind of go through a deploy phase where we play army units and detachments. We do a command phase where we generate an improved economy for ourselves, gain resources, gain cards, and then we end up in a combat phase where units kill off one another, battle abilities are potentially triggered, planets are captured, and then we move into a headquarters phase where we draw some cards, we get resources, all of our cards refresh, and then the round restarts itself. The first planet ends up being captured each and every turn, and during every headquarters phase, there's going to be a new first planet. So I suppose, Sam, you've got the initiative token. We've both used our one and only mulligan. So considering that Taurus is the first planet, it means that there's going to be a battle taking place there no matter what. Also, during the command phase, Sam and I are each going to send our warlords to a different planet. So there's a lot of different effects to keep track of for sure, but the game isn't nearly so difficult as it may seem at first once you start to get used to it. But what would you like your opening action to be, Sam?
All right, well, I'm going to pay $2 here, or 2 resources, I should say, to play this attachment, Slanesh's Temptation. And so this is an attachment that's a little different than most. It actually gets attached to a planet, and whereas most get attached to a unit. So what I'm going to do is drag this over here to the 5th planet, and I'm going to just kind of, what's called on Octagon, send it to the back so that it's kind of out of the way and we can read the whole planet.
Sure.
And what this attachment will do is any unit that, in this case my opponent, Mitch, deploys at a planet other than the planet I have attached this to, which happens to be Planum, is going to cost him an additional resource. So this is a way for me to make my opponent spend a little more money on units than he normally would. And this card will stay in play until a battle at this planet has been resolved. And that can only be done one of 2 ways. Either it's the first planet, which means that's 5 turns away, or Mitch or I send one of our warlords to that planet in an earlier round. Anytime you have a warlord sent to a planet, you will initiate a battle at that planet.
Right. So this not only encourages me to play units at this planet, it encourages me to send my warlord to that planet, and if Sam can predict my movements, that works in his favor. And then, of course, the most straightforward effect of this card is that if I put a unit out to planet 4, or 3, or 2, or 1, the cost of placing a unit there is going to be increased. And if Sam has a bunch of units sitting here already, maybe I won't have the resources available to really try and contest him. So I think what I'm going to do as my first action is I'll just spend a single resource, and I'll play a neutral card, a Void Pirate. So, like I said, actions alternate back and forth, starting with the first player and then moving on to the second player. Void Pirate happens to be a neutral card, so any faction outside of Tyranids can use these neutral army units. If you take a look in the bottom left, it has one of those command icons. The number under that is a 0, so it's not able to attack and deal any damage. And then in the very bottom left, that white square indicates that it has 1 hit point. And then in the center of the card, it has a +1 card bonus. So if I end up winning a command, they call it, at this planet, so during our command phase, if I've got more command icons there than Sam does, not break even, but actually trump his total, then I'll gain the planet bonuses plus 1 additional card. But Sam, since it's your turn to act, what are we going to see from you?
All right, well, I think what I'm going to do is play the unit, 1-cost unit, Splintered Path Acolyte. So what I'm going to do is deploy this unit at Planet 5. This will allow me to tie you on command, as my Splintered Path Acolyte also has 1 command hammer in the left-hand side underneath the artwork. And so I can either keep him here in hopes of tying you on command and not allowing you to win it, Or I can trigger his ability, which says interrupt when I deploy a demon unit. I can then sacrifice this unit to lower that demon's cost by 2. So it can, in effect, be a net 1 resource gain, because I'm going to spend 1 on this guy, and then perhaps I'll spend 0 to get a 2-cost demon out here on my next deploy action.
Sure. So I suppose it's going to be once again my opportunity to play out a card. I suppose if at any point a player decides they want to stop, they can just say, I pass. But as soon as you do that, then your opponent has an opportunity to just go absolutely crazy and continue playing out whatever they wanted. So that would be a good opportunity, were I to pass now, for Sam to start filling all these different planets with command icon laden units so that he'll end up winning a ton of cards and resources that I can't have any additional opportunity to stop him with. I suppose for my action, this Slaaneish's Temptation is definitely a little bit annoying, but I'm going to do... I think I'll invest 2 resources and then pay an additional resource for this card, Tactical Squad Cardenas. So it's your basic army unit. It attacks for 1, it has 3 hit points, and it has an ability called Area Effect 1. So instead of just attacking a single unit, it can affect the entire enemy forces present at that planet. So that's my deploy action, put out to the first planet where a battle is guaranteed to take place. And what are you going to do, Sam?
Alright, I am going to spend 2 resources and play my signature army unit, Zarathar's Flamers. Now, in addition to a Warlord in your deck, every Warlord comes with what is called his signature squad, and that is usually composed of 4 copies of an army unit, 2 copies of an event, 1 attachment, and 1 support. So this will be the first we see of any of the signature units, and that can be identified. If you look on the kind of bottom right corner of the artwork, you'll see a yellow, kind of like a chaos star type symbol. And that yellow dot reflects that it is indeed part of Zarathar's signature squad. So when you're building your deck, you have your 1 Warlord, which is Zarathar, and then you'll have 9 copies of cards making up your signature squad. That usually leaves you with 41 other cards to build the rest of your deck. And he has 1 command hammer, so I'm tying you right now for command at 1, 2 attack, 2 HP, and he has an action that I can sacrifice him to deal 2 damage to a target non-Warlord unit at the same planet.
Sure. Just like Sam was saying, every faction, like Space Marines, are generally pretty hardy. They have a lot of different mid-combat abilities that are really useful. Chaos has to do a lot with demons and damage dealt directly or being amplified. So within each faction, each specific warlord and their signature squad further kind of has a specific theme. So Captain Cato Sicarius is about relocating units. He's about events like this, the Fury of Sicarius, where as soon as a Space Marine unit damages an enemy, you just immediately destroy that unit. So Space Marines are hardy, they're really difficult to kill, and Cato is exceptionally good at killing, Xenos, heretics, and purging the unclean. Well, I suppose now that it's my opportunity once again to deploy a card, I'll go ahead and put out an attachment of my own, this time affixed to a unit. I'll play the Talisarian Tempest Blade, and let me go ahead and put this underneath my Warlord. And the way that our Warlords work, like Cato and Zarathar here, they're currently in a realm of the board called the HQ, so they're not actually at a planet, they're just kind of sitting in reserves in a kind of difficult to target headquarters safe area. But this Talisarian Tempest Blade, it cost me 1 resource. You can see that it has 3 skulls printed on the left side, and I happen to mention that a lot of these cards are multi-purpose, like army units have an economic purpose, they also have a combat role. A lot of attachments and events can either be played for their beneficial effect, or during combat you can discard them from your hand in order to negate or decrease the amount of damage you're taking in. So every Warlord has one signature attachment. Cato's is the Tempest Blade. Basically, you have to affix it to a unique unit, like Captain Cato Sicarius himself. It gets +1 attack value, which brings him to 3, and then it also gains an ability called Armor Bane. So shield cards, like with those skull icons, can no longer be used while he's attacking, so it just gives him a fantastic opportunity to potentially kill off enemy units. And I'm starting to run a little low on resources. There's not too much left that I can play. So Sam, it's going to be once again your opportunity to deploy. And what are we going to see from you?
All right. Well, Mitch, I will, as you see, target my Splintered Path Acolyte. You can see the black circle rotating around him.
Sure.
I'm going to target him to use his interrupt ability and decrease the cost of a demon unit I play by 2.
Right.
And so I will play this Rotten Plague Bears for basically free. I will put that unit at Planet 1, and then my Splintered Path Acolyte goes off to my discard pile.
Sure.
And now with the Rotten Plague Bears, they also have one command hammer on the bottom left side of the artwork there. So here you can see at Planet 1, I'm going to be trumping Mitch as it stands now with 2 command hammers to his 1.
Right.
So hopefully I can win the 1 card and 1 resource at Taurus upon command. And then they also have, they have 0 attack and only 2 HP. But the good thing about this unit is its action reads that I can exhaust this unit to deal 1 damage to a target enemy unit at this planet. And because there's an action window before and between each attack from each player, I can, it's kind of like getting 2 attacks in a row, so to speak.
Right. So if I'd have had some fragile, vulnerable, low HP unit, Sam could potentially kill it off before it has the opportunity to attack or use some sort of nasty effect. So really nasty little unit. And if you consider that Zarather happens to increase the damage assigned to each enemy unit located at his planet by 1, if Sam waits until Zarather's sitting at that planet, it's a really significant amount of damage that cards like the Rotten Plague Bearers can dish out. So I suppose we go to my turn now. And I no longer really have the opportunity to deploy anything, like this White Scars Biker would cost 4, my Honored Librarian would also cost 4, unless I put it at Planum, where we have Slaaneash's Temptation, and then everything else just isn't really useful right now, so I'm going to say I pass, and now Sam has an opportunity to take as many actions as he would like.
Alright, so I'm going to spend 1 to play a Void Pirate of my own, and I will stick him here at Planet 3, Carnath, hoping again that if I win command here, it'll get me the extra card, so I'll be taking a total of 2 cards and 1 resource from this planet.
Right, and just like I mentioned before, Void Pirates are a neutral army unit, so they can be used by absolutely any player. So I suppose now we're going to move to a new phase. There are 4 phases in total: deploy, command, combat, and headquarters, so we're going to go to the command phase. And the way that this works, Sam and I are both done playing cards. There's this little icon here, this little servo skull, and it's a dial. You can pick either 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5, and that number is going to correspond to the planet that you are secretly going to choose to have your Warlord commit to. So I happened to mention earlier that this Slaaneash's Temptation helps kind of corral or make my Warlord's target predictable. Like, I want a battle to happen at that planet. Wherever a Warlord goes, a battle is going to end up taking place. So the earlier I get rid of that Slaaneash's Temptation, the earlier I can stop paying more resources for putting units anywhere except for that specific planet. So I'm going to go ahead and set my Servo Skull to indicate planet number 5. So it goes face down. Sam has no idea where I'm going to go. He just has to basically guess. So Sam has chosen his target, and are we ready to reveal, my good sir?
Let's do it. Let's flip them over.
All right, so we both flip over simultaneously. Looks like I've chosen planet number 5. So I'm going to basically commit Cato to that planet. He leaves the HQ, and Sam has picked planet number 2, which is Barless. So Zarather is going to go to planet number 2. So now we resolve something called command struggles, and this is really that economy phase here. So we start to compare command icons at each and every planet. So planet number 1, I've got 1 command icon. Of course, Sam has 2. So using this digital playing surface, he's going to shift click on Taurus, and that means he's going to basically win the command here. He'll be getting that card, he'll be getting that resource. There are some events which can allow you to, cancel an opponent winning a resource or card bonus or prevent them from winning command entirely. At planet number 2, when a Warlord is present at a planet, something special happens. So long as that Warlord is ready, like Zarather is currently, you basically win command by default. So Sam is also going to win planet number 2. Sam has 1 command icon compared to my 0 at planet number 3, so he's going to win command there. And planet number 4, there's nobody present, so there's not any command to speak of. And since Sam happened to mention this Void Pirate gives him an additional card, he's also got it selected. So at planet number 5, I'm actually going to be winning command since I'm the only person with units present at that planet, and I'll make sure to select my Void Pirate as well. So Sam and I are both going to click win command on targets. It's optional to do so, but basically under almost any circumstance, you want to take all the cards and all the resources that you're afforded. So I got 2 cards and 1 resource, and Sam ended up getting 5 cards and 2 resources. So he got a wealth of new stuff, a new army unit, a couple new events, a couple new attachments. So pretty good showing for him. And then I got some more neutral cards.
Yeah, and I should explain real quick, Mitch, that the reason I went to 2 with Zarather, I had a pretty good feeling you weren't going to go to 1. Seeing that I have the initiative token, it means I can attack first. Not to mention I've got 2 actions that I can take before attacks even happen to deal some damage. And I knew you wanted to get rid of that temptation at 5, so I just had a feeling you weren't going to 1 and that I could win the battle there without, having my Warlord present. So.
Right. So by committing his Warlord to planet number 2, he's drawing 2 additional cards that had he sent his Warlord to planet number 1, he would not have won. I also would not have won them, but you really want to try to get as many cards and resources as you can, just to help increase your chances of winning the game here. But at the moment we're about to move into our combat phase, there is an action window at the very end of command, but unless you happen to have any actions, Sam, I do not.
I do not either.
Sure, and it's always the initiative token possessing players' opportunity to act first. In fact, they have to indicate whether they act first or not, so sometimes it's really handy, sometimes it's a bit of a detriment. But combat is going to occur. We're going to see combat at 3 different planets. There's always going to be a fight at the first planet, and then there's also going to be a combat wherever a Warlord happens to be. And if for some reason a Warlord moves planets, which a few different card effects can make happen, it's possible you could have up to 5 battles in a round. But I suppose we've got our first planet battle here. Any actions prior to combat, Sam?
I do have an action. I will, what's called exhaust, or as some people know, tap or kneel, my Rotten Plague Bearers, and I will denote here that I'm going to use their ability to deal 1 damage to your tactical squad.
Right. So at the present moment, I've assigned 1 damage token to my tactical squad. If I would like, I have the opportunity to shield some of this damage. So I have to consider, do I want to expend like this attachment, for example, promotion? It has a shield icon associated with it, that little skull to the left there. I could either use this as a shield to make sure that my tactical squad doesn't take any damage, but if I do, then during the following round I won't have an opportunity to play this card. So it's kind of a careful balance you'll have to strike between saving some of your events and attachments to put out, but also wanting to use them to spare the life of your combat units. but I think at the present moment I'm going to let that assigned damage be successfully dealt. So my tactical squad does take 1 point of damage. It still has 2 hit points remaining, considering that printed 3 HP in the bottom left. I do not have any actions. Anything else from you, Sam?
No more actions for me. I pass as well.
All right. So combat is now going to begin. In 40k, there are a lot of extreme long range weapons like basilisk cannons and all sorts of different things like that, las guns. And to represent that in this game, some units have a printed ranged keyword, so they basically have an opportunity to fire before any other normal units. And then as combat rounds progress, as units close in on one another effectively, the ranged units no longer have that same advantage. But it's a nice opportunity to front load a lot of damage. So some factions do it through ranged, factions like Chaos deal damage through card effects. But Sam has got the initiative token. There are no ranged skirmish attackers at this planet, so Sam is going to have the opportunity to attack first.
And I will exhaust my Zarathur's Flamers to deal their printed attack value of 2 to your tactical squad.
All right, so I'm going to go ahead and once again assign 2 points of damage to that unit, and because that would result in it being killed, this time I'm going to choose and discard a shield card. So I'm going to discard Iron Halo. It's got 2 skull icons printed on it, and I'm going to go ahead and discard that, and it's now sitting in my discard pile. I can no longer play it, but that means that my little tactical squad here is not going to take that 2 points of damage. So I suppose any actions after the attack, Sam?
None for me.
All right. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to exhaust my unit, and instead of an attack like Sam did, I'm going to trigger Area Effect 1. So I'm basically going to be assigning 1 damage to each enemy unit present at the planet instead of just a conventional attack.
So I've assigned that damage, and I choose not to shield with any cards that I have. I'll let the damage go through for 1 each.
Okay, and then that is my action. Sam and I no longer have any ready units, but before we ready all of our units, any actions from you, Sam?
No actions from me.
All right. So just keep in mind some of these different cards in Sam's hand, like this Tzeentch's Firestorm, he could use at any point, say prior to one of my units attacking and killing one of his, in order to, beat me to it and kill off my unit here. But we come to the end of the first combat round, since all of our units are exhausted. All of them are going to be ready, and I'm now going to have the opportunity to retreat, as does Sam. And since he has the initiative, he has to pick first. So what do you want to do?
I will not retreat. I will stay with both units.
All right, so I'm going to actually retreat, and the way that this works is, seeing as how Sam has the initiative token here, that means he's going to get an opportunity to attack first at the beginning of this next combat round, and I'm thinking it would be silly just to keep this unit here only to have it die, so I'm going to exhaust it to have it retreat, and I'm just going to move it away from that planet to represent it moving to my HQ. So it has retreated, and I suppose that's going to bring us to the end of that combat. No actions for me.
No actions for me either, so what I will do is I will win this planet. I obviously cannot trigger its battle ability because I control more units than you do, but nonetheless I do get to win the planet, and that goes what's called to your victory display. Now, if we were playing in real life, you would kind of set this off over by your deck in clear view of you and your opponent so that they can see how many of those colored icons you have. But if you look down right above my hand, it'll say my name and then 3 resources, 7 cards. I have the 1 initiative because I have initiative. And now you can see that I have 1 material and 1 strong point and then 0 tech, which is the blue. So it shows that I've got 1 each of material and strong points. So on my way, hopefully, to getting close to, 3 of either one of those.
Right.
And I will now move my units back to my own HQ, away from the planets, and we move on. There is an action window here, checking for the battle at the next planet, which indeed we have. I have no actions.
Right, and keep in mind that Sam's units return to his HQ in their current state. They're not exhausted because they didn't retreat, simply because there's no longer a planet in play for them to sit at. For any subsequent battle, any non-warlord units that linger end up sitting there because it's only the very first planet that's captured every turn. It's not every planet where a battle is taking place. But there is a battle at Barlas. I have no actions.
Yes, I have no actions either, so it looks like I will win this planet uncontested,
Right.
and I will trigger that ability to have you discard a card at random from your hand.
Sure. So, in person, you just shuffle up and have your opponent pick one. But of course, since this is digital, I'll just do a random discard. It ended up being my second copy of Void Pirate. In building your deck you basically have to choose your warlord and their associated faction. You've got your 8 mandatory signature cards, and then you've got 42 other cards in your deck, up to 3 copies of any individual card. You can use neutral cards, you can have your main faction's cards, and then you can also pick one allied faction, depending on an alignment wheel. So Chaos, as a faction, can ally with either the Orcs or the Dark Eldar, and then the Space Marines can ally with either the Tau or the Imperial Guard or Astra Militarum, but that's pretty much that. Once that battle has been won, Zarather, his warlord, is going to return to his HQ, but neither player is actually going to win this planet Barlas here. Moving on down the line, there's no battle at Karnath, there's no warlord present, it's not the first planet. Same thing goes with Yavvarn, and then for our still planet number 5, Planum, there is going to be a battle because my warlord is sitting here. So, I suppose any actions on your part, Sam?
No actions for me.
All right, so basically, just like we saw at planet number 2, I'm going to be winning this battle uncontested. So this battle ability is, I can move a non-warlord unit I control to a planet of my choice. So I think at the moment I'm okay with where all my units are, and since I've won a battle at this planet, now I get to get rid of this Slaaneish's Temptations. That's going to be discarded. My warlord is going to return to my HQ, and just like Sam's Void Pirate, after the battle takes place at a non-first planet, the Void Pirate just sits there. And I suppose any actions prior to the end of the combat phase?
No actions for me.
All right, so Sam, as our first player, is going to initiate our headquarters phase. We have another action window at the very beginning of the headquarters phase, and then what we're going to see in just a second is we'll each draw 2 cards, we'll gain 4 resources, and then we have a new first planet, so Barlas, that was planet 2 is now planet number 1, and we end up revealing a new 5th planet. So there are 10 total different planets. At the beginning of each game, you shuffle them up, deal out 7 of them face down, 5 start face up, and then over the course of the game, we gradually reveal 2 additional planets. So no matter what, each of these games is only going to last 7 rounds. Oftentimes, they don't last nearly quite that long, but our new planet is Ossus 4. Its battle ability is basically stealing a resource from your opponent. So I've now got the initiative token. Our deploy phase starts all over again, and now I've got the opportunity to deploy a unit. So I'm going to go ahead and do I'll pay 3 cost for these White Scars Bikers at planet number 1, and they get stronger if a warlord happens to go to the same planet that they're at. And how about you, Sam?
All right, my first action is going to be playing this event card called Promise to Glory. It costs me 0, so that's great. And what it allows me to do during the deploy phase is to put 2 Chaos Cultist tokens into play. So Chaos is one of 5 factions that uses what's called token units. It's a different type of unit as opposed to like an army unit or a warlord unit. And so we see I've got these 2 little tokens right here. I'll put them next to Zarather. And they're just little 1 attack, 1 hit point units. The primary purpose of the cultist units, token units within Chaos, is to use similar to how I use my Splintered Path Acolyte. They are cost reducers for demons. You can see they have the interrupt. When I deploy a demon unit, I can sacrifice this cultist to reduce its cost by 1. So essentially, if I play a demon, I've given myself for zero $2 to spend on the next demon I play.
Right. So just another little bit of economic advantage for Sam there. And then in regard to what I want to play, I want to try to win as much command as possible. And I'm trying to think here, just in assessing, Sam, I know he's gotten a red icon. He also has a green icon. So if he were to potentially win a few different battles here, like let's say next turn he won at Karnath, and the turn after that he won at this planet Yavvarn, that would mean he's gotten his 3 red icons and he's won the game. So Yavvarn would be a good planet for me to have something sitting at, just to try and prevent him from doing that. I'm trying to think, where exactly should I put units based on where Sam goes. Sam and I both have units in our headquarters now, and what gets a little bit more complicated is when we send our Warlord to a planet, you basically move the entire contents of your headquarters with that Warlord. So any of these units are going to arrive exhausted alongside his Warlord, and that means they're going to miss out on their opportunity to attack during the very first round of combat. So it's kind of another trade-off here in between. Do you want to send a ton of units to the first planet knowing that they'll return to your HQ and then show up at a different planet exhausted? Just a lot of different effects to juggle that become more and more clear as time goes on. But I suppose just for the sake of putting out a card, why don't I do 3 resources for an honored librarian at this planet Yavvarn here. And now it's Sam's opportunity to play.
All right, so I'm going to spend 1 resource and play the support card, Orc Cannon. Now, this is one of the cards that you can ally with. You can see, like on Mitch's honored librarian, right kind of near the bottom right side of the artwork, there is a blue dot above the Space Marine logo, and that means that card is what is called loyal. So if Mitch were to be playing, say, Astra Militarum and align himself with the Space Marines, he could not take the Honored Librarian because of its loyalty to the Space Marine faction. But if you look at the Orc Cannon, you will see there is no blue dot above that Orc symbol, which means it's allowed to be taken in a either Astra Militarum or Chaos aligned deck. So I'll spend 1. Supports are played into your HQ, so I'll just go sit it over here by my units. And this is a great little card. It's a combat action. I can exhaust it to target a planet, and then each player has to deal 1 indirect damage among the units he controls at that planet. So this is a good way for me to deal damage if I'm there, or even if I'm not there, to one of your units.
Right, so in Chaos and in Orcs, there are lots of units that get stronger as they take damage. If the Orc Cannon shoots at a planet where you don't have any units of your own, then it's all upside, in a sense. You're just dealing out damage to me, so that's definitely pretty handy to see. And now it's going to be my opportunity to play some additional cards. I've only got, 1 resource left, so I'm kind of running out of stuff to play. I'm trying to think. I've got this card, like this promotion, which adds command icons to units. It's normally not terribly useful, but I'm trying to think, what exactly should I do? I think at the present moment I will just go ahead and pass. So I'm going to hold on to everything in my hand, and now it's going to be Sam's opportunity, if he'd like, to continue taking actions until he himself runs out.
All right, well, I'll spend 1 resource to play this army unit, Heretic Adventure. Now, 1 resource for a 1 command, 3 attack, 3 hit point unit is a great deal, but the downside is it has this forced reaction. After it enters play, my opponent can move it to a planet of his choice. So I will deploy him, and I will go ahead and stick him right here at Planum, and now Mitch has the opportunity to say, move him somewhere else.
Well, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to relocate that to the first planet.
All right, I'll move him on over.
Thank you very much. So it's a, fantastic card for its cost. It hits really hard. It's really durable. It doesn't cost much, but I basically get to pick and choose where I put it. And what other actions from you, Sam?
All right, I've got a few more here. So I'll play another Void Pirate here, and I'll stick them at Planum so that I match you on command.
Okay.
And then I will play, for 0 resources, a copy of Promotion. Now, you discarded this earlier, but here's the first time we see it. This is a 1 shield card, so I can, if it was in my hand, hold on to it and discard it to prevent at least 1 damage from an attack or some sort of card ability. And you see that it is limited, and there is a limit of 1 limited card per round by either player. So I think Promotion is the only limited card I have currently in this deck. But for instance, if I had 2 of them, I could not play 2 in this turn, now that I've played 1. So what I will do is I will stick this Promotion on my Void Pirate, and that gives him 2 additional command icons. So now I'm winning the command battle here 3 to your 1 in hopes of getting 2 cards and a resource. And then I think I will also play, for 1, another support called the Shrine of Warp Flame. And this, as you can see by the yellow kind of dot surrounded by the chaos icon here near the bottom right of its artwork, this is another one of my signature Warlord cards. It's my 1 copy of my signature support, and it has the reaction that after an enemy unit is destroyed, I can exhaust the support to return the topmost Tzeentch card from my discard pile to my hand. Now, looking at my discard pile at the moment, the topmost Tzeentch card would be that Splintered Path Acolyte. So if I don't use some sort of Tzeentch card to kill your unit this round and get that back, if somebody dies, I can at least take that Splintered Path Acolyte back and hope to use it to discount a demon by 2 on the next turn.
Right, so definitely you can see how this game starts to become pretty complicated pretty quickly, but once you have a little bit of experience, it all starts to make a lot of sense. So I think the back and forth, it seems like a lot of checking for actions and things like that, but it's all pretty simple, pretty straightforward, fairly predictable. So a lot of just ability to win this game kind of comes from leveraging as much value and as many actions in one player's advantage as possible. Of course, Sam has kind of taken an early game economic lead, and as he's been taking in more cards and more resources than I, it just seems like over time it's going to become more and more easy for him to continue to do that unless I manage to stop him from doing so. So maybe Sam is playing a longer game, a more control-focused game by sprinkling his command units across the board here, whereas maybe it's starting to be more in my advantage to try to push, those first planets, just because since only one player is going to be able to win the first planet each and every turn, even if Sam ends the game with 30 cards in his hand, if I can keep winning combat just by, playing to the best of my ability, the game could easily be mine. So, any other actions for you, Sam?
No, at this point, I will pass.
All right, so Sam and I have both passed. Now we're going to go into our command phase once again, and we just simply pick where we'd like to send our warlords. So I'm going to go ahead and pick my destination. Sam has also picked his. We'll both reveal at the same time. Are you ready, Sam?
I'm ready. Let's live them.
Alrighty. So I've chosen planet number 1. Sam has chosen planet number 2. And I'm going to move basically my entire headquarters there. So that's my warlord and an army unit, and Sam does the same. So you can see that all of his tokens and both of his army units both arrive exhausted. So I've got a huge combat presence at the first planet, and Sam has a significant presence at the second planet. Even though he doesn't have any units that he's going up against, once we reach the headquarters phase of this round and all of our units ready, that's going to put him in a really good position the following turn, because if I want to try to win Karrnath, all my stuff shows up exhausted, so you can kind of see it's a little bit of a trick. Like maybe Zarather wanted to go to planet 3, 4, or 5 to get one of those battle abilities, but he's not going to be able to, potentially, just because he's got so much valuable stuff with him. He doesn't want to drop off these units on a planet where, by the time we start fighting battles there, I've already won the game or something like that.
Right.
So,
and we should note also, Mitch, that these units that arrive from your HQ, or if they happen to be in play and they're exhausted at a planet, exhausted units do not count their command icons towards the command struggle. So now you've got the Warlord at Planet 1 and I don't. So although you have one command hammer on your Bikers and I have one command hammer on my Heretic, um, you're going to win that with Kato, and the one icon from your tactical squad does not count because
Right.
they're exhausted.
Exactly. And the same thing, a warlord no longer automatically wins command if it happens to be exhausted. But at planet number 2, quite clearly, Sam is going to win. He's got his warlord there. That void pirate is also going to generate him an additional card, so Sam is going to get one resource, one card. The second planet, one card from his void pirate. At the first planet, I'll be getting 2 cards. At the third planet, I've just got one command icon compared to Sam's 0. At the fourth planet, we end up seeing Sam with one command icon and an additional 2 command icons because of promotion, and that means that he's beating my void pirate. So not only does this mean that we're not, first of all, I'm not winning that card, that resource. I'm not getting my additional card. Sam and I aren't breaking even, which would mean neither player would win anything if he only had his Void Pirate there. But because of that promotion, it's him getting the 2 total cards in 1 resource. So just a fantastic little economic 1-2 punch there. And now Sam and I are going to gain all of our resources. So I got 2 cards, 1 resource. I got a couple awesome events. And let's see. Sam got 4 cards and 2 resources. So again, he's keeping that strong economy going, and he's trying to keep it up so it generates a bit of a snowball for him. But any actions before we move beyond our command phase?
None for me.
All right, so we're going to move on into combat. We are going to be seeing a battle at the first planet. Any actions for you, Sam, before we conduct that battle?
I do have an action. I'm going to exhaust the Orc Cannon. As you can see, its action is a combat action, so I can only trigger this action during the combat phase. So I will exhaust the support to target a planet. I am going to target planet number 3, Yavvarn here. So it's 1 indirect damage to each of us, but because I have no unit there, it's just 1 indirect damage to you.
Right. So I've got to think, do I want to use one of my attachments, one of my events to block that damage? The Honored Librarian is so potentially powerful because it hits really hard. It deals out 4 points of damage, but it's relatively fragile. It has an ability that makes up for that, because if I have any other unit present at that planet, the Honored Librarian can't be targeted by an attack. So if I have like a Land Raider with 7 hit points, Sam has to chew through that Land Raider before attacking the Librarian directly. And because it hits so hard, it's able to, be a fantastic glass cannon. Something that's really tricky, though, is Zerathir has so many effects like Tzeentch's Firestorm, like the Allied Orc Cannon, where he can kind of bypass that stubborn effect that makes the Honored Librarian so difficult to remove. So I think in this case, I'm going to go ahead and discard a copy of Promotion to prevent the 1 point of damage that would have been dealt to the Honored Librarian. And because Sam doesn't have any units present at that planet himself, we don't see any damage dealt out to, one of his units. So any other actions, Sam?
No more for me.
All right. So we'll see combat break out at planet number 1. There's no ranged skirmish round, and I suppose any actions prior to resolving attacks.
None for me, sir.
And none for me. So I've got initiative. That means I'm going to have an opportunity to attack first. Captain Cato Sicarius, as a warlord, you can either attack or you can use your action, that combat turn, to retreat. So you can lose the game from your warlord being destroyed. So your warlord is bloodied, and then once it's on its wounded side, if it ends up being essentially bloodied again, it's counted as destroyed and you lose the game. So sometimes it's better for you to run with your warlord than to wait until the end of the combat round, where you could potentially be bloodied, potentially be destroyed. So warlords have a chance to retreat early. Cato, because of his Tempest Blade, he's attacking for 3, and I know that Sam cannot use shields. His unit here happens to have 3 hit points, so I'm going to go ahead and exhaust Cato and direct an attack at his Heretic Inventor. So I suppose any interrupts or reactions, anything like that, Sam?
None at all. No, I can't block that 3 damage, so I put it on him, and he goes over to the discard pile.
Right. So even if Sam wanted to, he could not have used shield cards to save that unit. Captain Cato Sicarius has a reaction where after an enemy unit is destroyed at his planet, I end up gaining 1 resource. So even though Sam is doing better at me during command, if I'm able to be sneaky and kill off a bunch of his units where Cato is, I can just earn a wealth of resources through doing that. I suppose I don't have any actions prior to resolving this battle. Anything from you?
Nope, none at all. So you can win that ability, and I will randomly discard a card here.
Right. So let's see what Sam gets. He discarded an orc cannon, so I definitely don't mind seeing that go.
No, not a bad pull at all.
Sure. And then I capture the planet, which basically means that I'm going to get one of those green strong point icons, and now all of these units are going to go back to my HQ. So that planet is gone. Now we're going to see a battle at Karnath, and no other planet, because there are no warlords left.
All right, I've got no actions here, Mitch, so unless you have anything.
And I don't have any actions either.
All right, so I get to trigger this battle ability. It is trigger the battle ability of any other planet in play. So I'm not going to trigger Yvonne. I'm doing okay on the resources. I don't necessarily have a big old giant expensive unit that I want to try to get in for free. Plus, that gives Mitch the ability to put a unit in. He could have a big unit that I don't want to see out. So I'm not going to trigger that. Like you were last time at Planum, I'm pretty happy with where all my units at, so I'm not going to trigger that. But I will trigger Osus 4, and I will steal a resource from you, so at least I get 1 back here that you earned for killing my heretic.
Right. So it just creates a little bit more of an economic disparity between both players. And sometimes, for example, even if Sam was doing really well in his economy, drawing a ton of cards, if I make sure that I win command on all the planets that have resources, he could have all the cards in his hand, in his entire deck practically. And if he doesn't have resources to play them, then I could be doing very, very well. So I suppose that's our battle there. Note that Karnath is not captured, and the only unit that returns to Sam's HQ happens to be Zarather High Sorcerer here. So that's our combat phase. We're about to go into the HQ phase, and any actions from you, Sam, before we draw cards, collect resources?
Nope, nothing from me, sir.
All right, so let's go ahead and do our command phase. So I'm going to go ahead and click End Turn. We end up seeing a new first planet, which is now Karnath. There's going to be a battle there no matter what. And then we also see our 5th final planet. There are no longer going to be any additional planets revealed, and that happens to be Aatrox Prime. So its battle ability is you pick an adjacent planet or a target HQ, and you deal 1 damage to each enemy unit there. So that damage is assigned, they have a shielding opportunity, and then if they choose not to shield, then they do take that damage. But that could be great. Like, let's say if Sam ends up winning the first planet, I could send units to Aatrox Prime to end up blasting his HQ and potentially killing off a bunch of his units there. So given that the planets are going to be dealt out in a different order each and every game, it's a fantastic kind of bit of dynamism, a little bit of a changing element to each and every game. But the initiative token is now with Sam. He's got 10 resources and 8 cards. I've got 6 resources and 7 cards. It's Sam's opportunity to take an action, and what are you going to do?
All right, I'm going to play another copy here of Slanesh's Temptation. And I should note, you'll see this like on the Talasaran Tempest Blade or either of our Warlords, and now you'll see it here on Slanesh's Temptation. Right in front of the name of the card, there's a little black skull, and that is what is called a unique card. And each player cannot have more than 1 copy of a single unique in play at any time. So obviously, you only have 1 Warlord, and because it's part of Mitch's signature squad, he only has 1 copy of the Tempest Blade. But I could not have played, had I have had this second Slanesh's Temptation in hand, I couldn't play a second one if that first one was still out on the board. But because Mitch got rid of that earlier, I'm able to play another copy of it, and I will stick it on Aatrox Prime so that any unit you deploy other to a planet other than that one, again, will cost him an extra dollar. And I'm okay with putting it here at the end because even if Mitch goes here to get rid of this card and trigger Aatrox Prime, which can hurt me down in my HQ, that means he'll have had to drop off his tactical squad and his White Scars bikers way out on the end of the board, where hopefully I will have the game won long before then, and they're really not going to do much of anything out there.
Right. So it's always a trade-off, is it worth my sending my Warlord to Aatrox Prime knowing that I'm going to drop off 5 resources worth of units there? So it's very much going to be a bit of a struggle between, do I want to just keep eating all of these additional costs that I have to pay each and every turn? What exactly do I want to do? So Sam is just presenting me with increasingly difficult choices atop increasingly difficult choices. And now the game is starting to look a little bit difficult for me to try to win, despite all these awesome events in my hand, just because Sam is starting to, just have such a significant presence out on the board here. But Sam has taken his one action. I think I'm going to go ahead and spend one action of my own to put out a copy of the Imperial Fist Siege Force. I have to pay an extra resource to put this into play, and I'm going to go ahead and put it out at planet number 3 here. And the way that this works is its reaction is after I deploy it, I can rout one or more target ally units at this planet. So the Void Pirate happens to be an ally, and what routing means is it's basically the unit is exhausted and it's immediately put in Sam's HQ. So all of a sudden, instead of having my Void Pirate versus his 3 command icons, I now have 2 command icons at this planet compared to his 0. So I'm potentially doing much better here than I would have. But now it's Sam's opportunity to play some cards, and what are you going to be playing, Sam?
All right, I'm going to sacrifice both of these tokens to put a unit into play for free here. I'm going to play another copy of the Zerathor Flamer, and since they're 2 cost and I'm sacrificing 2 cultists, they cost me 0.
All right. So, fantastic economic advantage there. And normally, if you're playing these cards in person, you'd have like a token bank. So Sam just moves these out of the way to act as like a reservoir for if he draws another Promise of Glory or any other number of Chaos cards, which generate some of those tokens. Sam has taken an action, so once again, it's going to be my turn. And just in assessing what I've got in my hand, I can't play this Honored Librarian because it would cost 4, put out anywhere except for Aatrox Prime, so I think I'm going to pass. And now it's Sam's opportunity once again to just go nuts.
All right, I'm going to spend 1 and put a Rogue Trader over here at Osis 4. So the Rogue Trader is basically the resource-generating counterpart to the Void Pirates that we've already seen.
Right.
If I win command at a planet where he's at, you can see down in the bottom middle of the card, it's +1 resource. So potentially if I win command here at Osis 4, I'll be getting 3 resources instead of just 2.
Sure, and at the present moment, since I've passed, there's absolutely nothing I can put into play to stop Sam, so he can continue taking actions to his heart's content.
All right. I'll spend $2 to play a Rotten Plague Bearer, and I'll stick him over at Yavharn, tying you potentially on command unless you bring Kato and all his buddies from HQ there. And it still gives me a good little way to, maybe exhaust and try to get a damage ping in on your Honored Librarian.
Right. So it's just fantastic. Keep in mind that Honored Librarian can't be attacked while I've got non-Honored Librarian units at that planet, so that Rotten Plague Bearer's ping plus Orc Cannon, that could kill my expensive unit here before it has any opportunity to attack. So kind of a handy little 1-2 punch. And I suppose anything else, Sam?
No, nothing else for me. So I'm ready to move on to the command phase here.
All right, so for command, Sam and I are going to pick where exactly we'd like to send our warlords once again. This is done simultaneously, it's done in secret, and I'm ready to reveal as soon as you are.
All right, I'm ready. Let's flip them over.
All right, so I'm going to go to planet number 2. Sam's going to go to planet number 1. So I'm going to go ahead and drop off my little squad of units here. and my bikers and my tactical squad arrive exhausted. Sam, you just had the one unit coming with you from the HQ?
That's right, and he was already exhausted from your Imperial Fist siege force.
Right. So the Void Pirate isn't going to contribute command icons toward this planet, but it is going to contribute its card bonus. So now that Sam and I have, dumped all of our units out, he's handily going to win command at the first planet, since he's got, looks like 4 command icons and his ready Warlord present. At the second planet, my Warlord being present means I automatically win. If I did not have my Warlord present, Sam and I would have tied. At planet number 3, I've got, I'm basically winning. And at planet number 4, Sam is going to win. Plus, he's going to get an additional resource from his rogue trader. So both of us are going to win command on these targets. I end up getting 2 cards, 2 resources. Sam gets 3 cards and 4 resources. And, I kind of like what I drew, but now it's going to, I suppose, any actions as we leave the command phase, Sam?
No command actions for me, Mitch.
All right, so combat phase starts. Once again, Sam has the opportunity for actions. He's got the initiative token. So anything from you?
Yes, I will exhaust my Rotten Plague Bearers here at Yavvarn to deal 1 damage to your Honored Librarian.
Okay, and I think I'm going to accept that 1 point of damage. So
All right.
I've assigned it, I've chosen not to shield, and I will just take it.
All right, any actions for you here, Mitch, at Karnath?
No.
All right, I'll go ahead and trigger a second action. I will exhaust my Orc Cannon, and with that, I will trigger Yavvarn. I will target Yavvarn, and I will deal 1 point of damage to my Plague Bearers.
Okay. And for me, I think I'm going to go ahead and assign 1 point of damage to Kato, and I will not shield that damage.
All right. So if you have no other actions, I will win Karnath, it looks like, uncontested.
Sure. So now he can pick the battle ability of any planet he'd like to trigger.
Let's see. I think what I'll do is move a non-Warlord unit. I think I'm going to trigger Planum here.
Okay.
And move a non-Warlord unit. I think I'm going to move the damaged Zerathor Flamer over.
Okay.
And stick him at that planet.
Sure. So that's Sam's action, and now go ahead and actually capture Karnath, and that's going to mean 1 additional red and 1 additional blue icon for Sam. And just in checking his total down here on this little overlay, again in person, he'd just have the cards sitting in front of him, but he has 2 red, 1 green, and 1 blue icons. So as soon as he ends up winning another red icon, that means he's going to potentially win the game here. So, I suppose that's that battle. Any actions before we have a battle here at Yavvarn?
Nothing for me.
Okay, well, the initiative token is in Sam's possession, but because I have a Warlord here at this planet, and he doesn't have a Warlord of his own, I essentially steal initiative. So I'm going to have an opportunity to attack. Any actions at all before I do so?
Yes, indeed. I'm going to trigger the action on Zerathor's Flamer, and I will sacrifice this unit to deal 2 damage to a target non-Warlord unit at this planet. So I'm going to sack him and try to hopefully get rid of that Honored Librarian.
Sure. So I've got to assign 2 points of damage to it. I'm going to choose and discard a shield card, this attachment here, the Nocturne Ultima Stormbolter. So that's going to be discarded, but that means both of those points of damage are going to be blocked, basically. Something else to keep in mind is that as soon as Sam destroys an enemy unit, he has the opportunity to exhaust this support he played, the Shrine of Warpflame, to return a Tzeentch card from his discard pile to his hand. So if I'd have let him resolve that effect, he could have returned that Tzeentch trait, Zerathor's Flamers, to his hand after destroying my unit. So I think it was definitely wise of me to try to prevent that from happening. Plus, as Sam is starting to, just get an out-of-control economy, I really need to try to keep as many invested resources as I've put into play, keep those in play, if at all possible here. So, I suppose any other actions, Sam?
No, Mitch. No more actions for me.
Alrighty. So, I suppose with combat started, my opponent has indicated no actions. I'll have an opportunity to attack. Just in wanting to be a little bit safe, I'm going to go ahead and attack with my Honored Librarian. So I'm swinging for 4. His Rotten Plague Bearers only has 1 hit point left. And I did that because I want to leave Kato available to retreat, available to deal out some guaranteed damage, because as you play the game, as you get to know your opponents, one of Zarathar's cards happens to be the equivalent of this drop pod assault I have in my hand. So you can kind of use an action to ambush your opponent with a unit, so it can drop in unexpectedly, potentially deal out some devastating blow. So I didn't want to leave myself in some sort of horrible predicament. But any action, Sam, before I go ahead and win battle at this planet?
No, but I should point out that you do get to gain a resource from killing my Rotten Plague Bearer with
Right,
Kato's
so
ability.
thank you for reminding me there, Sam. I'll go ahead and add 1 resource token to myself.
And we should also point out, Mitch, the reason Kato did not have his reaction go off when I sacrificed the Flamer to try to deal or to deal 2 damage to your Librarian is that sacrificing is not destroyed.
Right.
And so that's a bit of a difference there. So even though he did technically leave play and die, so to speak, Kato can't go off because he was sacrificed rather than destroyed.
Right, and a lot of the, well, all of the cards in this game are very much literal in regard to their interpretation. You know, Kato specifies destroyed, he doesn't specify sacrificed or discarded or leaves play or enters play. If a card, you know, tells you something else, like the Fury of Sicarius here, it's after a Space Marine unit damages an enemy non-warlord with an attack, you destroy it. So it's not you deal it damage through a card effect, it has to be done specifically through an attack. So I suppose that's going to allow me to win at this planet, and if I choose to do so, I could trigger this battle ability. So just for fun, why don't we go ahead and trigger Yvonne? A lot of players don't like to trigger it because your opponent might be holding on to something big and nasty. Normally, if you're playing against Chaos, they specialize in big, scary demons, so it's a bit of a risk here, but maybe I'm feeling really bad about my ability to win the game, so I'll trigger Yvonne. I'll pick this Honored Librarian from my hand and put it into play. And do you put anything into play, Sam?
Yeah, I do have units in my hand, and if your opponent triggers this and you have units, you have to put one into play.
Right.
So I've got a few choices here, but I'm going to put my 4-cost Orc unit Burner Boys into play. So we haven't seen them yet. They're a 4-cost army unit, 1 command. They attack for 5, and they have 3 hit points, and they have a nice little reaction that pairs well with Zarathar's damage amplification ability. After they are declared as an attacker against the enemy unit, I can deal 1 point of damage to a different enemy unit at that same planet.
Right. So it's just a nice little effect, and the more instances, the more individual instances of damage you can have. If Zarathar's at that planet, each and every time he amplifies it. So that's just a fantastic value card for Zarathar, and I suppose that's going to be our combat here at the second planet. So at the end of that, Kato by himself is going to be returning to my HQ with that Honored Librarian. This Slaaneish's Temptation is going to remain in play because there was no battle fought at that planet, and I don't have any other actions. Anything from you, Sam?
Nothing from me, so I will end the turn here, and we'll go on to turn number 4.
Right, so our headquarters phase is about to occur. That's going to be 2 additional cards and 4 resources for both players. The initiative token comes back to me, so now I'll have the opportunity to deploy my units first. So Sam's HQ is just absolutely full of units, and I know that Sam is going to be able to win the game as soon as he captures another red icon. So I know that Sam could win at Aatrox Prime, once we, get there from 4 planets from now, or he could also win at Yvonne. I've got some units already at Yvonne, so I feel like that's reasonably walled off, but now I've just got to think, where exactly do I want to keep placing units to try to, potentially beat Sam here? So I'm trying to think. I suppose what I will do is I will spend 3 resources for a Sicarius's Chosen. This is my signature army unit, so I have 4 copies in my deck. It's Sicarius's kind of, his default squad. I'll put it into play at planet number 4, and as soon as this unit enters play, I'll move a target enemy unit at an adjacent planet to its location and deal it 1 damage. So I'm going to target Sam's Rogue Trader. So it's automatically going to be moved, and then Sam has to assign 1 point of damage. And are you going to shield that damage, Sam, or let your unit die?
I think I'm going to let that unit die.
Sure. And note that since I played it to the planet where Slaaneash's Temptation is attached, it only cost its printed resource value. But now it's Sam's opportunity to deploy.
All right, I'm going to play another copy of Orc Cannon here.
Sure. All right, and back to my deploy, I think I'm going to go ahead and pick, and this is a little bit difficult here, but I think I'm going to choose a Vashya Trailblazer. So it costs me an additional resource because I'm going to put it out to planet number 3, where Slaaneash's Temptation is not, and this happens to be my allied faction. So I've allied with the Tau in this deck. You can only pick one of your 2 chosen allies, plus neutral cards. You can't ally with both. So I can't use Imperial Guard cards and Tau cards, only one or the other. This has 2 command icons, and it has a keyword called mobile, so at the beginning of the combat phase, if it were going to be destroyed or something like that, I could just use an opportunity to kind of relocate it to any other planet. So it's a very handy little versatile, hard to pin down kind of unit. And now once again, it's Sam's opportunity to play. What are we going to see from you?
All right, I'm going to play a little 2-cost, 2-command guy of my own here, the Chaos Fanatics. So they're a 2-cost, 2-command, 1 attack, 2 HP. They get that extra HP over your Vashya Trailblazer,
right,
because they don't have the mobile. So you're kind of with that Trailblazer, you're paying the same for 1 less attack. 1 less HP, but you do get the opportunity to move to adjacent planet if you need to.
Exactly. And I think at this point I'm going to go ahead and pass. I want to save a bunch of resources just to be able to play different events during the combat phase. But what are we going to see from you, Sam?
All right, so I'm going to play a copy of Promotion here and throw an additional 2 command hammer icons onto that Chaos Fanatic in hope of winning 2 resources there over your Trailblazer.
Sure.
Then, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say it's all you, so keep going.
All right, I'll then spend $4 to play another copy of Burner Boys here at the, put him at Yavvarn, and then I'll spend $2 to put a copy of Zarathar's Flamers also at Yavvarn.
Sounds good.
Let's see. I'll spend, I think I'll spend $0, and I will attach my signature attachment, the Mark of Chaos, onto the Zarathar Flamer that is in my HQ. And so what this card does, it's Zarathar's 1-of copy of a signature attachment. You can see that it's one of his signature squad cards by the yellow dot in the bottom right of the artwork. It's also got 3 shields. I think at this point in the game, every 1-of signature attachment is a 3-shield card, and it is the only card in your deck that is going to have 3 shield icons. But what this does is an interruptibility, and when the attached unit leaves play, I can deal 1 damage to each enemy unit at the planet where he's at. And I think at this point, Mitch, I am going to play 1 more card. I'll spend $1 to put a Rogue Trader out here on Aatrox Prime, just in hopes of tying your command. I won't be able to get the extra resource if we tie, but at least I'll stop you from getting a card and a resource. So that's I guess, with a card and a resource of my own.
Exactly. So even though Sam isn't winning his own economy, like you just said, it could potentially all come down to this last battle here. If Sam wins this planet, that's going to be 3 red material icons, and that means he could win the game. So he's got a big army in his HQ here. If he can manage to prevent me from drawing a bunch of additional cards, a bunch of resource tokens, if he can stop me from playing events, then he could potentially beat me in combat and then capture the planet and win the game. So I suppose you've passed as well, Sam?
Mm-hmm, I have passed.
All right, so let's go ahead and set our little servo skulls. Both players are going to have to pick where they'd like to send their forces. And this is just a tremendous wealth of nastiness Sam has here. But I've picked. Have you picked as well?
I've picked. Let's flip them up.
All right, so I've chosen planet number 1, and Sam has chosen planet number 1. So, important to keep in mind is that all of the non-Warlord units that came from an HQ are going to be immediately exhausted. So my honored librarian, and then Sam's just gigantic army here. And now, I suppose let's figure out command. So at the first planet, normally Warlords win command by default, but Sam and I both have a Warlord present. I've got a grand total of 3 command icons, and it looks like
I've only got 2.
All right. So even though Sam has a ton more units than I do, they're all exhausted, so they don't contribute. So I'm going to end up winning Yvarn's planet bonus. I'll end up winning Planet 2's bonus. At planet number 3, Sam is going to trump me with 4 versus 2. And then at planet number 4, we're actually broken even. So let's both go ahead and win command there. So Sam, for the first time, actually did poorer than I did. He ended up getting 2 resources, whereas I got 2 cards and 2 resources. So the initiative token is in my possession. As we go into combat, normally a Warlord steals initiative, but since I've got the token, both of our Warlords are here, I'll have first opportunity to take actions, first opportunity to deal out attacks.
And since we're at the start of the combat phase, this is where you can choose to trigger your mobile if you want there on your Trailblazer.
Right, so mobile is going to occur before any additional actions. Let's say that if this game were going to be going a lot longer, for as long as my 2 command icon unit sits here against his 4, I'm not going to be winning, so it's probably smart to relocate it. So I'm going to move it to planet number 4 here, so that the next turn this will allow me to win with my 3 icons versus Sam's 1, instead of just losing at planet number 3. But combat phase, I don't have any actions.
All right, I do. I am going to trigger. Let's see. I need to look at my discard pile to see if I am able to kill one of your units with one of these Orc Cannons, what Tzeentch card will come back to my hand. And it looks like the Zarather Flamer. I got rid of him last turn, so he's the topmost Tzeentch card in my discard pile.
Right.
I will trigger that Orc Cannon and deal one indirect damage to each of us at this planet.
Okay. And I suppose what I will do, knowing that this Mark of Chaos is sitting out here and is extraordinarily nasty, I'm going to try and think. So under normal circumstances, this Orc Cannon deals 1 indirect damage, but because Zarather is sitting here at the planet, it's actually going to be 2 points of damage that I have to assign. So I'm going to go ahead and assign 2 points of damage to my White Scars Biker, and then I'm going to discard a second copy of the Nocturne Ultima Stormbolter in order to prevent that damage. So.
All right, and I'll put 1 damage on my exhausted Zarather Flamer.
Okay, and keep in mind that Zarather doesn't amplify damage that friendly units take, only enemy units. And seeing as how Zarather's Flamers here are very, eager to sacrifice themselves, it's definitely a wise choice to put damage on those.
Any actions for you here, Mitch?
Nothing yet, no.
All right, well, I will exhaust my second copy of Orc Cannon, and again, I will target the first planet, Yvarn, to put a damage out there. I think I'll put 1 damage on my exhausted Void Pirate and kill him.
Okay. And I think what I'm going...
You know what? I take that back, Mitch. I'm not going to do that because that would allow Kato to generate a resource. So I'm actually just going to put it on my healthy Zerathor Flamer.
Sure. And I think what I want to do is... I think I'm going to put 2 points of damage on Kato, and then I'll discard the Fury of Sicarius to remove that damage there. So I'm going to go ahead and subtract 1. So he takes 1 damage, only 1 is shielded. And any other actions, this is normally the Chaos player's time to shine.
I do have an action. I will sacrifice this exhausted Zerathor Flamer to deal 2 points of damage to this Honored Librarian that is readied.
Okay, and that's going to be augmented up to 3 by Zerathor. So instead of just, wasting shield cards, I'm going to let it be destroyed.
All right, and now he'll go to the discard pile, and we'll see this interrupt trigger off Mark of Chaos. Right. So it'll be 1 damage to each enemy unit at the planet, which gets buffed up to 2 because of Zerathor's ability.
Right, exactly. So there's going to be quite a bit of damage going out here. So I'm going to go ahead and assign all my damage and then figure out how I want to deal with it shield-wise, because my White Scars Bikers will survive, but my tactical squad is in danger of being destroyed, same with this Honored Librarian, and then Kato himself is looking pretty wounded here. So I'm trying to think, how exactly do I want to deal with this? Things are looking very grim. Definitely Sam has been able to do much better than me economically throughout the game, and as a result, he's got just a wealth of different units sitting here. I think what I'm going to choose to do is I'm going to use Fury of Sicarius discarded to prevent 1 damage dealt to Captain Kato here, and then I think I'm going to let the remainder of this damage resolve. So my Honored Librarian and my Tactical Squad are killed, my Bikers are still alive and reasonably well. They're practically dead. I can't say that they're alive and well in good faith. And I suppose that's that resolved.
All right. I'm thinking here if I want to trigger this Shrine of Warp Flame.
Right. Because
to bring that Zerathor Flamer back to my hand.
Yeah, there was definitely a triggering event taking place, so reactions are always optional. But
yeah, I think I'm not going to trigger it at this point. I think I'm going to hold off for the time being.
Okay. Well,
any actions from you?
Nothing, no.
All right. I think what I'll do is spend $2 to play this Tzeentch's Firestorm and deal 3 points of damage to the White Scars Biker.
Sure. So I've got to assign 3 points because of Zerathor, so the White Scars Biker is going to be potentially destroyed. I've got this 2 shield icon drop pod assault, but that would only bring it to 3 hit points. You can only play 1 shield card per, source of damage, so I can't, double up. Indomitable only prevents damage dealt by an attack, not a card effect like Tzeentch's Firestorm, so I've kind of got to bite the bullet and start to accept my abundantly clear fate here, and my White Scars Bikers are destroyed, and that's yet another triggering event for the Shrine of Warp Flame.
Yeah, so at this point I will trigger the Shrine of Warp Flame. I will exhaust it, and the handy little thing is that this Firestorm here that just went off, it resolves its effect and immediately is discarded, and then the reaction happens. So even though I just played it, I get to bring it back to my hand.
Right, and what's doubly good about that is as an event, Sam is going to be able to play it during the combat phase, whereas if he'd have recurred that Zerathor's Flamer, he'd have had to wait until the following turn to deploy it and then use its action. So a very nasty 1-2 punch, and considering that Space Marines have a lot of units they can ambush in during the combat phase, seeing as how Sam has 1 resource left, he's setting himself up very favorably to kill off any units I happen to drop pod assault into play. But I suppose any additional actions, Sam, or can I finally do something?
I finally passed, so you can do something.
Well, thank you very much for humoring me. I think I'm going to go ahead and exhaust Captain Kato Sicarius, and I'm going to target his Burna boys. So I'm attacking for 3. Sam will not have an opportunity to shield, so they're going to be outright killed, and now I don't have to deal with that big nasty attack of his. And now it's Sam's opportunity to take a combat turn. It's your either attack with a conventional unit or retreat with your Warlord. But what are you going to do, Sam?
Okay, we're going to take a swing here with the Flamers for 3 on Kato.
Right, so it's 2 plus 1 because it's augmented by Zarather. I'm going to go ahead and play an event. I'm going to play Indomitable. So this is one of the strongest Space Marine cards. It's 1 resource, and a Space Marine unit is basically you prevent all attack damage dealt to it. So instead of taking 3 damage, Kato takes effectively nothing, and the Zarather's Flamer can only use its ability on non-Warlord units. So Kato still has 3 hit points remaining, but I'm out of, ready units, so let's see here. I'm trying to think, do I want to use an action now? I suppose I think I will. So Sam has just attacked. I've got the initiative tokens. It's my opportunity to do an action first. I'll use 2 resources for a drop pod assault. This basically means I search the top 6 cards of a deck for a Space Marines unit with cost 3 or lower, and I put that unit into play, and then I rearrange those remaining cards at the bottom of my deck. So let's look at the top 6 cards, and it looks like I've got a few different choices in play. So I happen to mention that Space Marines are great at ambushing units into play. One of my options here is called the Eager Recruit, and it's got an ability called Ambush, so I can deploy it like I would any unit during the deploy phase during the combat phase. So just like Drop Pod Assault, it kind of lets me cheat units into play, but I'm going to go ahead and pick the Blood Angels Veterans here. So I'm going to go ahead and put these remaining cards at the bottom of my deck in the order of my choosing. Again, I'm just kind of being carefree. And I've now got this Blood Angels Veterans ready to attack in play. I'll discard my Drop Pod Assault. And any actions from you, Sam?
Yeah, I will go ahead and sacrifice this Flamer to deal 3 points of damage to your Blood Angel Veteran.
Right, so it's got reaction after it's assigned damage, prevent 1 of that damage. So Sam would be attacking me for 2, Zarather would increase it to 3, the reaction would decrease it to 2, and then I am out of shield cards, so it's basically taken all the damage it's going to take. It's at 2. And any other actions?
I will spend my last resource and my last card to play that Firestorm again, and because Zarather's here, I will be hitting you for 2 damage instead of just 1.
Right, so he channeled that X is equal to 1, Zarather bumps it up to 2, my Veterans bumps it back down to 1, and I don't have any shield cards, so that Veterans is going to be destroyed before I have a chance to attack. I don't have any actions. Anything from you, Sam?
No actions for me, so I will attack, and I will use Zarather to hit you for 1, and of course he augments himself up to 2 damage.
Right, so now my Warlord is at a single hit point, and I suppose no actions from me. Anything from you?
No actions from me either.
All right, so we're going to come to the end of the first combat round. All of our units are going to ready. Both of us have an opportunity to retreat. The initiative token possessing player has to choose first whether to run, whether to stay. As soon as Sam captures this planet, I know that the game is lost, so I'm going to choose not to retreat. And I suppose, do you retreat?
No, I will stick around with everyone.
Definitely worth noting, which I've forgotten to mention earlier, is you can retreat with as many or as few units as you'd like. So if you need to get your Warlord out of there, but you want to, leave like some big, powerful combat unit, you can kind of pick and choose what you want to retreat for free at the end of every combat round.
Yeah, and I suppose as an example here, I will retreat like my Void Pirates. They're not contributing anything to combat.
Right.
If Mitch has still got 3 cards and 3 resources. If he has he's already said he has no more shields, but if he had another Drop Pod Assault, there's no need to let another Tactical Squad Cardenas come in and AoE the planet for 1 and kill those guys. In the event I lose this planet and I need to fight on to win the game, I might as well take those guys with me somewhere else where I could potentially win command and get their bonuses.
Right. Just because the Space Marines in particular, just like Sam was saying, are a faction where there's a lot of unpredictability. As the end of each combat round happens, normally they ambush units into play, and just like Sam dealt out a tremendous, painful blow at the beginning of combat, the Space Marine player tends to, stick around a lot longer than you're expecting them to. At this point, I basically know that the game is all but just completely lost, and if, Sam, you don't have any actions, I suppose.
I do have one action. I will exhaust my Rotten Plague Bear to ping Kato for 2.
Right. So importantly, this can target any unit whatsoever. It doesn't refer to non-Warlord, so even before Kato has the opportunity to attack, I've got to assign 2 points of damage to him. I don't have any shield cards available, so I'm going to have to flip Kato upside down, and now he's going to be bloodied. And basically, just like I mentioned before, he loses his ability. If he happens to be reduced to 0 hit points in his bloodied form, I immediately lose the game. But at this point, I don't happen to have any ready units at this first planet. Sam has the opportunity to take a combat turn, either attacking or retreating. I don't
Yeah,
have any
I've got,
actions.
and we should point out, Mitch, also that when your Warlord is bloodied, he is automatically routed. So
Right,
he exhausts and goes back to HQ.
right.
I have no further actions. And so unless you can ambush someone in or drop pod someone in, it looks like Zerathor will win the game here.
Right. So I don't have anything I can do. I just have army units that I can't play outside of the deploy phase, and that means Sam is going to be able to trigger that battle ability, and he's going to be able to capture the planet. So if you would do the honors, Sam, let's go ahead and bring our game to a close.
I will. And since I have the game's already won, I don't need to trigger the ability. I have no cards in hand to do so anyway, but I will capture the planet, and that will get me 3 material red icons.
Right. So that is Warhammer 40,000 Conquest. It definitely goes a hell of a lot faster once you're more familiar with the game, once you understand what exactly to expect. I suppose just in hindsight, Sam, like what went well for your deck? Why were you able to win this game so handily?
Well, having a Slanesh's Temptation out on turn 1 was key for me. Space Marines do have good, hardy units. Like that Honored Librarian. I think, I guess with the exception of your Imperial Fist Siege Force, which you basically use as a command unit anyway, he was at 2, the lowest hit point unit you had. Everyone else, was at 3. This Curious Chosen was at 3. Your Tactical Squad had 3 hit points. Your Blood Angel had 3 hit points. Whereas basically every unit I had in play, with the exception of the Burner Boys, had 2 units. 2 HP. Getting the Slanesh's Temptation out on turn 1 helped because your units are hardy, but they're relatively expensive, and increasing their cost really helped me. Even though you got rid of it, I was able to get another one out on the 3rd turn, which was the next turn that I had the first deploy action by having the initiative token. So I think that helped, and getting 3 of my 4 Zerathor Flamers, one of them which I was able to stick the Mark of Chaos on. It was just too much damage going out along with my Orc Cannons for you to really keep up with.
Sure, and I think that sums it up perfectly. I feel like from the very onset of the game, I was kind of starved of resources. I had a lot of pretty expensive effects that I could put into play, but I just didn't have the resources for it. Kato didn't end up destroying enough bodies so that I could fill the table with Space Marines, and just the stars did not happen to align for our poor Ultramarine. But I suppose with that said, any final sign-off that you'd like to give, Sam, before I wrap up this introductory video?
Well, I just want to say to anybody watching this, thank you for watching it, and really encourage you to give this game a try. It's a great game. I've played a slew of different card games, and I think this is one of the most well-balanced and well-designed games. It's got that nice kind of bluffing poker aspect to with the servo skulls, where you're going to commit your Warlord, and where you're going to go, where's your opponent going to go. Just a great game. I really suggest anybody that likes card games, or anybody that likes the Warhammer 40,000 IP, give this game a try. It's a great game. It's really fun. It was a little odd that, Kato and Zerathor never even went toe to toe until the decisive planet, but
Right.
sometimes that's how this game works out. And thanks for watching, guys.
Yeah. Well, I suppose I'll just end this video by saying once again, my name is Mitch. I am the Hive Tyrant here on YouTube. I run a channel very much dedicated to Warhammer 40,000 Conquest. I have Octagon gameplay like these. I commentate live recorded matches filmed at an isometric angle with an HD camera. I interview tournament champions, national, regional, world champions. I've interviewed the design team. I do card reviews and product reviews. I just discuss a wealth of different content relevant to this game, so I definitely think it's fantastic. I'd encourage you to check it out, and of course, if you enjoyed this video, you're encouraged to hit that like button and subscribe to the Hive Tyrant channel on YouTube if you've not done so already, and of course, whether or not you are already subscribed, you're always encouraged to share this content, as the more people end up seeing these videos, the more people might give Conquest a try, like what they see, and of course, join the community and send the message to Fantasy Flight Games to continue to support this fantastic product. If at any point you'd like to get in touch with me, feel free to do so through Facebook or through Twitter, and of course, if at any point you'd like to help pitch in maybe $1 or $2 on a strictly monthly basis to help keep the Hive Tyrant alive, I'd be honored were you to visit my Patreon. But with that said, thank you once again for watching, and as always, be sure to check back in again soon for ever more Conquest LCG content to come.